range of options that they're going to look at with regard to the requests of the people on 4th Street considering their health and safety?
How do you mean was only a range of options? I looked at the motion, and the motion was to accept putting an amount in the capital budget for road adjustments for 2008 at that intersection.
Mr. Peacock said at the meeting, if you bothered to ask anyone who attended the meeting, that was for a worst case scenario, that he was looking at a range of options. So were you aware of that?
No, I'm not.
So
what would the other options be?
Mr. Peacock will present that in time to the council, so the sarcastic and in some cases allusions to perhaps even corruption or whatever, that comments that you made earlier this evening directed initially at
I take huge exception to that.
Hold on now, everyone.
A huge exception to that.
Wait a second,
we
everyone.
made no such insinuations.
Hold on, Ms. Robertson.
With regard,
please just finish your statement.
I think I finished it. I think our presenters have demonstrated their capabilities.
I take.
Councillor Mouton.
No, I'm sorry. I have to respond to that.
Please, we're here for presentation.
Well,
I realize what happened.
Have to leave.
Councillor Mouton, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you to the presenter. Was at any time the Horticulture Society advised or consulted on the matter coming forward before council?
No, we were never consulted. Never at all. We knew nothing about this coming. We knew nothing about the motion. Mr. Peacock has not been in touch with any of us to talk about the other options that Mr. MacDonald's talking about, or to discuss the impact on the park or what could be done.
I guess I would seek a clarification if I may at this point. I do understand that the item came forward as a concept last week, although on the surface I myself was also uncomfortable with it because of its impact. It was a concept superimposed on a photograph, and it was very clear of what the potential implications could be. And I do recall that Mr. Peacock did mention that this was still a conceptual stage. My concern is that the item was priced at about $80,000, and that it would be moving as a ballpark, and it was to be moved through to budget deliberations. I do have a concern that there was no time, and it doesn't state in the motion that there would be actually options looked at. I think I would be more comfortable if we had a friendly amendment to the motion when it comes up later. And I must say that I do feel, and perhaps Mr. Peacock could clarify the process of this, but I must say that when an organization such as the Horticulture Society, and it could be other organizations, put so much effort into something like this, for my part, I do apologize that you've been dragged through this, because I do feel that it's very uncomfortable. And this is my view.
Point of order. The councillor is supposed to be asking questions now. She wants to address a point of view. We have time during debate. And I also take exception to her idea of saying we're dragging the Horticultural Society through it. They came tonight to make a presentation, which in my mind, and I'm sure in some of the, at least in the other members of the council's mind, was at the very least considerably sarcastic. Now, I think, Your Worship, we would ask if the councillor has a question, she should ask her question. She can put her debate forward later in the evening.
Councillor Mouton, do you have a question?
I actually requested a clarification, and I provided the background to that request. And this is not the first time that Councillor MacDonald has attacked me, and I will not.
Hold on, folks.
And me.
Have you got a question?
Women.
You haven't got a question? It is coming up.
I had a request for a clarification because we did have comments from the Director of Public Works last week, and I think for the benefit of the presenters, since they may have not been aware that it was on the agenda. I don't know. I'm not speculating here, but I think because we are on camera, and because the Director of Public Works is here, and because the presentation has been made, whether it's under delegation discussion afterwards, I think it's appropriate at this time, given the concern expressed.
I think it is coming up later on in the agenda, and at that time, then the council can be in discussion, and the questions that are being asked and the debate can take place at that time. Are there any other questions by councillors? Councillor Frost.
I would, through you to the Director of Public Works. First of all, I took what we decided on last week as a conceptual issue. In your mind, Mr. Peacock, are there other alternatives that might be brought into play at that area that would not damage to any extent that little parkette?
Mr. Peacock, please.
Yes, Your Worship, through to Councillor Frost. What was provided to Council was a conceptual view of the turning radius that would be required if Council so wished to put a turning radius at the location. It is actually the worst case scenario to show what would happen with a R17 radius, which is the RB17 radius, which is the largest truck that would be servicing that area. So there would be a whole process of debate once, if Council looked at that. There would be other options for smaller radiuses or other options to direct traffic another way.
Thank you, Mr. Peacock. That was my understanding.
Thank you. Any further questions from councillors? Thank you very much, both Ms. Robertson and Ms.
I just have to say, because the television cameras are here, that I'm surprised, Mr. Mayor, that you did not ask Mr. MacDonald to apologise both to myself and the executive of the Cobourg Horticultural Society.
Thank you very much.
I would like to point out that whether we were under a misapprehension or not, we were very happy to be able to present our feelings about our corner and
Thank you. I
in
appreciate
future.
that,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Hancock, very much. Thank you.
Your Worship, the next is a delegation.